Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty amazing, how we can actually collaborate with nature to clean dirty wastewater. We don't always have to rely on harsh chemicals or incredibly energy-intensive treatment plants. By just understanding the biology of plants and soils, we can literally transform what we usually just flush away as waste into a seriously valuable resource. So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover nature's wastewater treatment secret, how constructed wetlands work, living machines and engineering ecology, household greywater reuse systems, and finally, regulations, testing, and safety. All right, let's jump right into part one, nature's wastewater treatment secret, or as I like to call it, the microorganism party. Okay, imagine this for a second. What if the water you wash down the drain wasn't waste at all? What if it was the exact fuel needed to grow a thriving, lush oasis? There are people all over the world right now suffering from a lack of proper water treatment, and yet the solution might literally be growing right under our feet. Now, to understand how we actually harness this biology, we've got to get our terms straight. First up, we have greywater. This is that mildly dirty water from your shower, your bath, or your washing machine. Blackwater, on the other hand, is the heavily contaminated stuff, primarily from toilets. This distinction is absolutely crucial because it completely dictates how we treat the water and what kind of natural systems we can safely use. There's this fantastic quote from expert Andrew Millison where he describes the root systems of wetland plants as giant festivals of microorganisms. And that's exactly what it is, a massive microorganism party. It's not just the plants doing the heavy lifting. It's this dense, living filter of bacteria and fungi right on their roots. They literally feed on the organic pollutants in the water, breaking them down into harmless elements, while the roots themselves act like a net, trapping sediment and even absorbing heavy metals. How cool is that? Okay, moving right along to section 2, how constructed wetlands work at the community scale. When engineers try to replicate these natural wetlands, they basically use two main setups, surface flow and subsurface flow. Surface flow is pretty much what it sounds like. Water flows above the soil through emerging plants, kind of like a natural marsh. But, that brings risks of odors and mosquitoes. So subsurface flow is generally the winner for residential and light commercial areas. The water travels entirely underground through a gravel bed, keeping all that dirty water safely away from the open air. So, picture a horizontal subsurface flow system. The dirty water comes in one side and travels sideways through the gravel and plant roots. Because it's fully submerged the whole time, it's operating under anaerobic conditions, meaning no oxygen. And it turns out the bacteria in this oxygen-free zone are absolutely fantastic at breaking down organics and pulling out nitrogen, all without needing any complex mechanical aeration systems. Now, flip that idea and you get a vertical flow system. Here, the wastewater is dosed intermittently right over the top surface. As that water trickles down through the sand and gravel, it actually pulls air down with it. This creates highly aerobic, oxygen-rich zones, which massively improves a biological process called nitrification. It takes up a lot less space than the horizontal setup, but it does require some really careful dosing so the bacteria have time to, breathe between floods. Which brings us to section 3. Let's talk about living machines and engineering ecology at the mesoscale. These living machines are just absolutely beautiful. They're usually enclosed in these stunning greenhouses, and they use an incredibly diverse mix of plants, algae, and even snails to treat heavy blackwater right inside commercial buildings. Instead of hiding the wastewater treatment away in some concrete bunker, a living machine turns it into this lush, garden-like atmosphere. It relies on solar energy, gravity, and some seriously complex engineered ecology. Imagine being a drop of wastewater traveling through this machine. First, you enter an oxygen-free anaerobic tank where all the solids settle out. Next, you flow into an anoxic zone to strip away the nitrogen before being thrust into these heavily aerated tanks packed with plant roots. That's where the major biological breakdown goes down. Finally, the water passes through clarifiers and ecological fluidized beds for one last polish. Essentially, we are rapidly shifting the water from oxygen-free to oxygen-rich environments just to turbocharge that biological breakdown. And the EPA demonstration data on this is just wild. This biological alchemy removes 97%, yes, 97% of both biochemical oxygen demand and total suspended solids. It's taking high-strength wastewater and turning it into incredibly clear effluent using virtually nothing but the metabolic power of nature, a real game changer.
All right, section 4. Let's zoom all the way in and talk about household greywater reuse systems at the micro scale. So, a brilliant, super low-tech approach for your own house is the branch drain system. You literally just take water straight from your shower or laundry and route it through pipes directly out to your landscape. And this is a big but, you absolutely must use strictly biocompatible soaps. These are products that break down into elements that actually feed your plants rather than poisoning them with salts. The water falls into an underground bucket surrounded by wood chips, which acts like a biological sponge, buffering the hot water and hosting that microorganism party we love. Oh, and you have to leave an air gap. Otherwise, thirsty tree roots will climb right back up and clog your whole plumbing system.
All over the globe, variations of these microscale systems are literally changing lives. Take the Arava Institute in the West Bank, for example. They developed these gravity-fed off-grid systems using simple, recycled plastic crates filled with gravel and reeds. It provides incredible resilience. Families can treat their household greywater entirely through gravity and reuse it for irrigation, which seriously cuts down on those expensive freshwater bills. But if there is one single thing you take away from this explainer regarding home systems, it is the golden rule. Keep it all underground. Seriously, whether it's a wood chip sponge or a gravel bed, there has to be absolute zero contact separation between the biologically active treatment zone and any human or animal. Greywater still has bacteria in it, so you definitely cannot just spray it on your lawn or leave it sitting in puddles.
Okay, finally, section 5. Regulations, testing, and safety. Time for the reality check.
Across the U.S., we're seeing this tiered regulatory approach popping up. For low-volume residential use, think under 400 gallons a day going to a subsurface irrigation trench, a lot of states are actually making permits super simple. But if you want to bring that treated gray water back indoors to, say, flush your toilets, the rules get really tight. Those systems have to meet strict NSF/ANSI 350 standards, meaning rigorous filtration and chemical or UV disinfection. You'll also notice that kitchen sink water is almost universally excluded because of all the heavy grease and food solids. To make sure all this biology is actually doing its job, regulators and scientists rely on precise field testing. They use tools like portable turbidity meters. Turbidity is basically just a fancy word for how cloudy the water is, measured by light transmittance. And while it might seem like just an aesthetic thing, high turbidity actually correlates directly to dangerously high levels of organic pollutants and pathogens. Because, well, if we ignore pre-treatment or just dump whatever down the drain, disaster strikes. Fats, oils, and grease, the industry calls it fog, will solidify, severely clog your pipes, and totally coat the roots in your constructed wetland. Once that happens, you destroy the aerobic conditions, those helpful microorganisms suffocate and die, the system fails, and you are left with a toxic, foul-smelling mess in your yard. So yeah, pre-treatment settling tanks are absolutely vital. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if we're talking about a massive community wetland, a stunning indoor living machine, or just a simple backyard wood chip basin. Safe reuse completely depends on systematically removing 4 primary hazards: E. coli, biological oxygen demand, total suspended solids, and turbidity. When we balance the biology correctly, nature steps in and neutralizes all of them for us.
And that leaves us with a pretty powerful final thought, doesn't it? The water we wash away every single day, it isn't actually waste at all. It's a massive opportunity. It's a resource just waiting to feed a hidden, hungry ecosystem right beneath our feet. So, knowing what you know now, how will you look at the water going down your drain differently today? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this sparks some serious curiosity about the incredible living systems all around us.